Oh, I see that. I was watching some videos. Cool. There you go.
Hey, you hear me?
Okie dokie, you're on.
Can you hear me?
We just got to make sure the audio's working. Can you sing me a song or something?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'm gonna send you up there too,
Hope you can hear
and
me
I'm gonna
finally.
change some audio settings in real time.
I can hear both of you.
It's not my microphone, it's the sound, I think. Boop. What if I just put mute? Okay, so I'm guessing. Okay, you can't hear me. Now you should be able to hear me.
I can hear
but
you.
I can't hear you. So it's,
Test.
I don't know
1,
what's
2,
going
3.
on.
Can you hear me, Braxton?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
All right, I can hear you too.
I'm about to say now, if someone else can hear me, then it can be my phone.
Can't hear you. What a pain.
Might be the audio settings on your computer. Could you hear Braxton earlier?
He couldn't even hear me earlier. He heard like a couple of days ago he was able to. I don't know what's up tonight.
Well, he dropped off again, so I mean,
yeah. I think he might either come back or post, his another stream. Oh, there.
Can you hear us?
Take them off.
Test. Can you hear it?
Hello?
No?
Yeah, I can't. This is annoying. I can't hear you at all. So it wasn't just Braxton. It was anyone who wanted to join. That's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I say because I had.
Well, I was actually going to go over something cool. We wanted to include you in because you were, from what I remember, you were a vet, or at least you were working with soldiers, and we were talking about veterans. I was talking about my grandfather as someone I admired. So we were talking about leadership, especially among men. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I think I'm gonna have to go to the control panel real quick.
Yeah, because I refreshed some things in my phone, and then I went ahead and I restarted my phone, and then I went to my Samsung internet, which is what I'm using to talk to the stream. So then I had updated that, and was still mine's work. Because at first I thought it was my sound that was working, but turns out it's his.
Yeah, well, I can hear you just fine, Brax. So
I'm glad to know that it wasn't mine's.
Iron. Test, test, test. Iron. Test, test, test. Один, два, три.
Y'all go ahead and try to speak. I'm changing some stuff
Hello.
Один,
in real time.
два, три, четыре, пять, шесть, семь, восемь, девять, десять.
Hello, hello.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Took the earphones out. Let's see what that does.
Can you hear without the earphones? Unplug them.
Yeah, I can. Hello.
I can hear you still, Brax.
Okay.
Nope.
I'll even try that on this end.
I'm thinking. I don't know what this is. I don't have a guess at the moment either.
Well, he shouldn't have a virus if somebody didn't hack into his laptop.
No, I think it's computer audio. Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense right now.
Oh, man. I have no idea how to fix this. Computer audio settings somewhere. Yeah, so I went to system preferences. I'm not too amazing with Macs, but I went to system preferences, and then there's sound. So under sound, and I have sound effects, which is kind of not what I'm looking for. And I got output and input. But I'm looking for output, I believe.
Yeah.
Internal speakers, built-in balance. Not really a lot of stuff I can do there.
Well, I have a Mac for my lab, but I don't know Mac's enough to fucking help either. So I got a Mac for my lab so I can learn Macs and build a lab on it. But
here, I mean, I can share the screen and show you what I'm looking at.
all right.
I remember you saying you did IT.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
So you can see I'm looking at system preferences. I went to sound. There wasn't really a lot there. So I was working with the output and the input.
Go to output.
So the input, so let me think. So if you can hear me, but I can't hear you, so that probably means the output on my speaker is bad. But there's not really anything I can change here actively. It's just 2 bars. Now if I could find the driver itself, maybe I'm thinking. I guess where would I find the actual driver itself? Because then I could turn it off and on.
Not sure.
I don't know what this is.
Let me go over here to this Mac and see if I can plug it in real quick and see what I'm looking at.
Let's see there anything. Printers and scanners. That was a wild guess, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. Guys, I think this is just a bust. Okay, someone speak. I just changed something.
Test.
It works.
Great.
Eureka. Somehow we're in business. So believe it or not, all I had to do was go to. So all I did was I went to cam mic. I went to audio. For some reason, the speaker was set to one of my video editors. So it was outputting the sound from that video editor,
Oh, okay.
just in case anyone was interested in the technical stuff.
Well, it's good to know. I have a Mac back there, and that's what I was setting up real quick.
Man, I really don't like Macs. I'm familiar with Windows, so it feels weird. And I'm trying to do editing with videos on my channel, and I make AMVs too, and it's too fat. The mouse is too fat. It's like I can't. It's a pain, but I'm working with it because I actually want to get some content out and stuff.
Well, I got mine just to kind of learn it, and also I teach at the university, so half my students have Macs and whatnot. So I ended up just getting a hold of a Mac just so I could learn that, make sure that when I'm teaching classes and I have software that students need to load, that also works on Mac and all that stuff. So
I hope you can hear me now.
yep,
I
can hear you.
son. Okay, good.
We were having a pretty good conversation a second ago about. We were talking about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, I meant to be listening earlier. It's just I decided to start my business back up last week, and this past week it's been a lot of phone calls. So I'm just trying to kind of build that command staff and trying to get people on board, see if they're interested in coming on board and so forth and whatnot, and on the inception, and kind of trying to lay the reality of it is, like, I don't have the threats or weaknesses done yet or anything like that. I don't have all the business requirements. I can't really give a good lay of the land. I kind of give just like my ideas and so on and so forth. So the past couple of weeks has been very busy, especially the past week. It's easy to start up a business unless you need funding, and then in order to get funding for things, you need to have like your business plan. Your business plan turns into like this 40-page document, and there's a big part of it where it's like your business analysis that is probably only like, I don't know, not even 10% of the document, but consumes probably 90% of your time, right? So that's kind of what I've been focusing on. And also on top of that, just trying to talk to people, say, hey, this gets off the ground. Are you willing to come on board? And like, well, I don't know. I'm like, well, you let me know where your comfort level is at. Essentially, their comfort level is like what their job's going to be and how much you're going to make, so.
Yeah, that's a lot of our mindsets in a capitalistic kind of like, well, how much am I going to make and what am I going to have to do?
Well, at the same time, I have no idea about, or I have no problem paying people a good salary. One of the things I want to make sure that I take off with this business is that people are paid very well, right? And this is one thing I've noticed about a lot of companies is they don't invest in their employees. And I want to make this company that
so they get really terrible turnover.
I want to heavily invest in employees. I want to make sure people in some way, one way or another, can build loyalty to the company, because I want this to be kind of a family thing. I want people to feel invested in the company and want to do well,
That
and
sounds
everybody gets
wonderful
rewarded
compared to what we get. I support that.
Yeah, I hope it works out. I'm sure there's going to be some give and take on that. I think it will, though. Because there's 100 contracting companies out there that just treat their people. They hire anybody. They'll hire any warm body to fill a seat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm like, well, I mean, that's one way of doing it, but what
Because
happens
their
if
pool
you?
is too big. I mean, that's just my opinion. They have such a great pool of workers that they don't have to really invest in the people as individuals.
Yeah,
Like that's one of the things we kind of messed up on whenever we opened up the job market to women and just to a larger group of people, like even in some cases immigrants. Like we kind of forgot, oh, wait a minute, jobs don't actually like human beings. They don't actually like care about. And so if they needed, so if they had to like tailor to the small group of people they had to begin with, which is men, but now we made it even larger. It's like, well, now they just like, I can get anyone to work here. So it's like, but
yeah,
when you have a smaller group of workers, like, oh, suddenly you have to treat them good. Otherwise, you're not gonna be able to be in business if you don't have enough people working.
yeah. Well, I definitely want to kind of slow roll this. I want to speed it up, but I don't want to. I don't want to wait. You know, I don't want to. But at the same time, I want to make sure that the people that I hire are quality people. Hey, Ryan's here. Wow.
Absolutely.
And
And
you know, and honestly, I don't care if they're a man or woman. I don't care. I want quality, right?
yeah, as long as they can do the
And
job.
yeah, and I did want. I talked to Ryan, or I chatted with him the other day on like Good Mother's channel, but I wanted to talk to him maybe or get his email address, or he can contact me. But
You want to learn about his? Well, actually, I'm gonna let you say it.
well, I mean, it comes
He's really
down to
business savvy.
well, yeah, but I mean, the last time I closed my last shop, 2009, and that was after the last economic collapse, and I lost all my customers, and I was kind of idealistic back then about uh, pricing and customer, stuff, the how you handle customers. I'm a little bit more not, I care about the customers, but I'm I'm not going to listen to violin songs, and I'm going to be a little bit more stringent upon how, hey, this is what you want, this is the price you get. But I know Ryan's more into it right now, so I was hoping to pick Ryan's brain offline sometime about some of the lessons learned. I don't want to take his business or anything like that, but
Yeah, absolutely.
but
Hey guys, what's up?
hey, not
Hey
much,
man,
man.
what's up?
Yeah, sorry. I just finished my business for the day and was watching another podcast, but I noticed that you guys are going live. What's up? What's the conversation about?
Yeah, so I've been on for actually a while. I stopped the stream. I had a 3 hour, I think 4 hour stream, but I stopped it and started it because the audio wasn't working. Um, right now, Dad teaches his. He just wants to. I mean, he wants to ask you a question actually. So, but then
Well,
I'm gonna give the platform just for 5 minutes, just so y'all could like give like info, like maybe if you want to do it in the private chat, and then we'll kind of go into it.
well, we could definitely do it offline too. I just know, Ryan, that you're in the business world now. I've been, more kind of a manager and so forth, but I'm starting my old business back up. Well, it's not my old business, it's a new business. Starting it back up. And I just was hoping to grab your ear for a few minutes and get some lessons learned sometime in the next few weeks. So,
No problem. I gave you. I'll give you my secretary's email.
okay.
I'll put it in the private chat. Give me a moment.
All right, cool. So what we were talking about, I was actually talking. I think one of the first things I was talking about was veterans. Talking about leadership and the qualities that made good leaders, specifically as it pertains to men. But I kind of recognized that women, there are women like. Now, in terms of relationships, that's different because you have the masculine, feminine dynamic, and women are naturally going to want the guy to lead them. So just a different perspective. But when it comes to like being on a job, like women who are mechanics and they're really competent and stuff like that, that competence puts them in a place where they will end up, you know, being in a position of leadership among men or just other people who are less, you know, competent than them. I think based off of that, it stands to reason that if a woman's in a place of leadership, regardless of whether it's a man or a woman, there's certain aspects of leadership that has to be adhered to if you want to actually be someone who someone is willing to follow. One of those things, I'll just throw it out, that I had put out on the previous extension of this stream was humility. Humility is something incredibly important because whenever you're criticized as a leader, in my opinion, leaders tend to get the worst criticism because they, now it's implied I'm mainly talking about men here, but there are women who are in positions of leadership. And there are good women leaders and there are good men leaders and there are bad leaders who are men and there are bad leaders who are women. But the thing is, whenever you get criticism, I think what separates the good ones from the bad ones is that whenever they get criticisms from their subordinates, the ones who take the criticism as an opportunity to fire back and get angry at the person criticizing them, I don't think that's a good leadership quality. I think the criticism is there to give you an opportunity to actually connect with the group better and actually find solutions. Like it's that indicator light, and you can go and actually see what's wrong. If you look at it as an opportunity to grow and actually, you know, help, like as a way to figure out where you need to go, then you can get further with it.
I can support that, Iron Son. I can support that 100%. Earlier on, when I started my business, I started to realize a lot of the decisions I made were short-sighted, and I kind of needed another perspective when I'm continuing on my business. This was kind of after the 3rd-year mark, and this is the first time we made over $500,000 in the year, and I was thinking that everything was going to be fine and consistent. So what I decided to do was invite a board of directors to make decisions, because before it was just me and my co-founder. But then after that, it was four other people that were also invested in the business and also had skin in the game. So when it comes to making decisions, the best decisions to make the most money would come forward, right? So what I would have to do was basically bring my report and my plan of what we should do, right? Everyone had to sign off on it for it to go into effect. Yes, I was the CEO. Yes, I'm managing everything, right? But I would have to be the last person to sign off on the situation for it to go into effect. But if I were to bring everything, everyone else can critique it and try perfecting it. Or if they don't agree or they disagree. I think having that discourse makes any business grow. And this was earlier on in my business. Now this is 6 years later since I started that, and look at the growth. So yeah, taking accountability and growing from that makes anything better.
One thing I would say about women in particular that I brought up in the last extension of this stream is that a lot of them, since they're going along with this whole women's empowerment thing, a lot of their ego investment is kind of messing up their ability to actually lead effectively, ironically, in my opinion, because what you end up getting is you get women who are so busy trying to prove that they can lead that they end up not being able to actually connect with the people that they're trying to lead, right? And if you want to be, you know, at least, you know, I know connection can be seen as if I'm saying like, oh, well, you're just sitting there playing lolly games. You're just, you know, lollygagging with people around. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a leader, you have to, like, it's your job to give people something, you know, it's your job to to give someone, you know, something that they're willing to actually follow. Like they're willing to follow someone who is going to take risk, one, who's going to be willing to consider the opinions of the people who are following you as well, and willing to hear them out.
I think, from my perspective, I'd say I'm like a project manager, kind of a program manager, and also going on, like I just emailed Ryan here, and I have definitely seen one area that I've seen women both succeed very well and fail gloriously. It's in the same role, and it's in program management. I've seen probably an equal number of women do excellent in being a program manager. They can track everything about the program. It could be 30 or 40, line items, where, even the schedule has like, it could be 30 or 40 line items. The schedule has upwards of like 10,000 items in the schedule, right? And these women do a great job. They're able to just, manage the senior management, manage the senior management down on the employee level and so forth, and keep track of it all. It's also where I've seen women do the worst, and where they think that they're a program manager or a project manager, and they come in. And the thing is that the biggest difference I've seen where it makes the biggest difference, and especially with women, I think, because guys are either bad or good at things, right? But there's not usually a reason why they're bad or good. But I've noticed that a lot of women that have been bad at it are, ironically, and I hate to say it, but they're bringing on this feminist mentality with them, and they're trying to be feminist first and women first versus employees first, company first, job first kind of thing, right? They want to make it female first, and then everything else after that.
That's why they're failing.
Yeah, it's a singular, because I've seen plenty of guys fail or be mediocre program managers or project managers as well. But they just do it because they're just incompetent, or they exhibit a certain level of incompetence, and you watch them and you're like, you know that they are identifying this, right? Because you can see them kind of tap dancing in meetings or whatnot. They're trying to overcompensate for their incompetence. But you know that they've also, at some level, at least identified this problem. But they're not willing to step down or figure out how to solve the problem. Whereas, there's like one or two exceptions to that. I've seen, I've had some truly narcissistic kind of guys that think that they're the white speck on top of the bird shit, right? But I don't know if you ever, there was a movie, I can't remember, it was some cowboy movie from years ago. It was like, what do you call that white speck on top of the bird shit? It's bird shit, right? But
you said cowboy, Matt. You said cowboy movie. My brain automatically went to Brokeback Mountain.
I haven't been open enough to watch that movie, but I'm like, oh, cowboys want to, fuck each other. That's great, but it's not my kind of movie. But
the thing you said about, I wanted to bring out something you said. Of course, you have narcissistic guys who kind of, don't know what they're doing, but their ego is so big that they can't really bring themselves to. Well, that seems to be the good.
Well, the true narcissist personalities, once you get used to seeing what it is, then you can't ever ignore it. And there's
probably a lot of that with the feminist women, though.
I don't know. I don't think there's any more narcissists in the feminist movement than there are with like men. Maybe a little bit more. I've run across, but just because my experience, I'm not going to say my experience is like overriding, because at the same time, it's like dealing with like 10 people in my entire life.
Well,
right?
yeah, I'm not saying that there's
But
more. It's just we don't really have a movement to kind of go behind whenever I mean, we're just narcissistic. If we're narcissistic, we're just narcissistic men who are just not, we just think we're above everyone else, you know, whereas the women, like, you have an entire movement dedicated to narcissism that they're kind of,
well, sort of, but I mean, what I'm talking about is like there's an idea of what narcissism is, and then there's a real thing of what narcissism really is, right? So there's this idea of narcissism where it's very self-centered, and that's kind of a component of it. And being self-centered and very glamoury and thinking that you're center of the universe is kind of a component of it, and maybe some indicators of it. But true narcissism is like being a true vampire, right? It's a very true thing that once if you've ever had a toxic boss, toxic relationship, toxic friend, and you truly identify that toxicity in that's probably a real narcissist there, because they just try to suck the energy and the life out of you, and everything that they do is always good. Everything you always do is bad. It's very binary, black and white.
yeah.
And so forth. And I could talk about this for a long time. I studied this for entirely too long, but I studied it long enough to understand this in great detail, and also understand that I don't understand why anybody would want to be a shrink and deal with this bullshit. But
Oh my God, I'd lose my mind. Like, I studied psychology at first, but I definitely wouldn't want to do that.
Well, imagine doing it for 10 years, and
Oh my
and
God.
being in a first person kind of a scenario with it. It's just like I couldn't do it for a profession. I don't understand the mental fortitude these people have, because I'd probably want to kill my clients after a month. But
Yeah, I don't really see myself trying to actually fix that stuff, because those
you
are a
can't.
lot of deep wounds with that. A lot of that stuff starts in childhood for a lot of
It does.
probably the greater narcissists, not the.
Well, I think all narcissists start at about the age between like 0 and 3, right? They were kind of abandoned by their families. Even if their families were there, parents just kind of ignored them. I think that's 100% what it stems from, because they all exhibit one simple trait too, and it's a fear of abandonment. Well, the fear of abandonment only comes from when you're a child, when you think your parents are never there for you, right? Anyways,
Mhm.
I don't go too deep into this, because I could talk about this for entirely too long.
Yeah, I got you. I'll steer it back. So
Yeah.
So the main thing we're talking about is leadership, again. And you brought up that women, there are competent women, and there are competent men, and there's incompetent men, and there's incompetent women, and the different proclivities that they each have. The thing I wanted to say about women in the workforce nowadays, well, one thing you brought up is that if the person is incompetent, a lot of times they won't just give someone else a chance, someone who's competent. Is I mean, that's another part of leadership is knowing when to give the floor to someone who is competent in a particular field or in a particular subject matter. That way that you can get, the maximum amount of efficiency, or the max amount of whatever you need for that particular situation. The leader is he's not gonna want to have the spotlight on him. He's gonna want to have the best possible outcome for the entire group. So he or she is going to be willing to give the floor to someone who will be able to maximize the opportunity for everyone in the room ultimately. And that's going to be a humility thing as well. So
I would love to hear Ryan's take on this. Here's my take: is that I break it down to 4 categories: A, B, C, and D. Right? Your A players. You'll have somebody that's in charge, the leader or whatnot, and they'll kind of generally steer things. But everybody else in that group is usually, it's Ryan just dropped off, but everybody will kind of do what needs to be done, right? And there's not a lot of prodding. You might have to give somebody a little bit of focus, like, okay, I'm done with this. What's next? Like, okay, here's the next focus area, right? Once they started getting down to like B, C, and D players, we started talking about the person-centered manager. Where what I'm talking about that is like when you get down to the B level, that manager, that leader, or whatever is going to start leading, but wants more of a positive outcome for them versus the project or the goal, right? And then it gets worse with C and D, right? Where C is like, well, they want to really be noticed before, when if the goal is achieved, they want to be noticed. B is like, I hope they, B wants to really hope to get noticed for achieving the goal. C really needs to be noticed when they achieve the goal. And then the D player is like the person that wants to be noticed regardless if they ever achieve the goal or not. And then the further you start going down that band, I think, from my perspective, this is my own interpretation of things. I've looked at this for a long time. So, this is not academic or anything like that. It's just my own opinion. But, the A player is always going to promote the people that work for them to go forth and prosper. The B player kind of generally will, but they're going to want to hold their people back to support them because they still want to get the honor and the glory. And then once you get down to C and D players, like the D player wants all of the glory, fuck everybody else. And if you try to quit my fucking project, I'm going to hammer you. I'm going to try to ruin your career. And the C player is kind of somewhere in the middle. It's like, I don't want you to leave my project. You need to still worship me. I'm the greatest person on earth. And so forth. The D player is the one that's going to say, well, if you leave this project, I'm going to ruin your career. You'll never work in this town again. Kind of people. And I've run into these type of people too. And it's very weird. It's like, this is the 1930s. I was like, are we really saying this right now in this meeting right now? And you're actually saying it in front of other people. And that's your true D players, because they don't care who they're in front of. They could be in front of the board of regents or CEOs of other companies, and they're gonna downdress you to say you owe them because you work for them. Like, no, I chose to work here for this project. I didn't choose to work here for you dumbass motherfucker. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to cuss on your stream, but
you can. I don't think it'll do anything better.
Well,
Ryan said he's listening. He just has to do stuff.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting breakdown. I haven't heard it broken down like that. It's a cool analysis.
Well, I've looked at things for a long time. I like to watch people, and I like to figure out how things work.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely like to find the best people to fit the best role. And I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, or there's just consequence that I might find myself in these positions where I'm kind of like the orchestrator for these projects and whatnot. I don't necessarily seek them out. Granted, I do enjoy it. I can definitely say I enjoy it because I like to, I always say I like to operate with my hair on fire, right? Mm-hmm. I would never be a good gas station attendant with like one or two jobs in life. I need to have today's a great example. I probably spent 7 hours on the phone today talking about 15 different things that are not even related to each other. And I enjoy it. At the end of the day, it's very tiring, but I enjoy it. So I don't know where that has anything to do with what I was talking about a minute ago, but like your D player, just wants the glory. They just want to be ironically, your D player, you're going to find a lot of these people, and they're easy to identify, I think. They will usually find themselves in a position of authority of some way. I'm not exactly sure how, but my guess is that people just get beat down by these people so much that they just decide to promote them to other levels of failure. They're like, go up here, go, but it doesn't solve any problems. But at the same time, there's two key indicators from these D players. First and foremost, very little success ever comes out of their office, and the people that work for them hate them. And those two key indicators, I think, are a great idea, a great way of figuring out if that person's an A player, a D player, or somewhere in between. And especially if they're a D player, they'll usually almost never have critical successes, and they will their employees will always hate them. Now, they will have a couple of yes men, because there's always a couple of yes men there that are just fearful of their lives, of ever losing their job or their livelihood. So they'll suck any goddamn dick at any goddamn time just to feel like they're going to keep their fucking job. Right? And it's kind of a shame, because they have so little self-esteem for themselves that they're like, oh, I'll lick your asshole right now, And I'm like, well, guess who has no respect for you? Nobody, right? But you can't understand why your wife's divorcing you. Well, she doesn't have respect for you either, because you'll lick her ass as soon as she fucking, anyways.
Well, yeah, I think that's pretty good. So let's see. So one of the let's see, another leadership quality that I can think about just off the top of my head that was actually good. So I brought up humility. Humility was a big one, but then also being able to allocate different tasks to different people.
Delegation.
Delegation skills. That's a new one for me, but I guess I knew how to say it. I didn't know it was called delegation. Let's see.
Delegation is trust. That's all it is. Do you trust the people around you to accomplish the mission? If you don't trust the people that you hired or the team you brought in to handle it, why'd you bring them on? Unless you're like a CED player, right? And then you don't trust anybody anyways. But like A players, your A players will always delegate things, because they understand that first and foremost, they can't handle everything. Second, that they hired smart people to do smart things, and they also want free time. Also, they don't want to say, I hired a staff of 30 people, but I want everybody else to work 40 hours. I'm going to work 150 hours a week. Well, if you're working 150 hours a week, it's a failure to delegate. You hired smart people to do smart things. Trust them. If you can't trust them, why'd you hire them?
So in a way, I think what's kind of funny is a lot of women. So I'm bringing it back to the dynamic, the man-woman dynamic. Like a lot of women choose a man, as a result of that choice. It's like, okay, now, so that's your leader, right? So then a lot of them, like, they'll call themselves either going back to school, but they don't go back to school because they want to necessarily. It's just like, okay, so I need another option just in case this guy leaves me, kind of thing. I don't know. So you said trust and delegation, but like it kind of made me think about how like some women, they'll kind of dip their toes into the idea of matrimony, but they won't like really go full tilt into it. They never really fully commit to it. At least nowadays, you don't see the type of commitment they had, back then today.
Well, especially if they have. I
because
think
there's a lack of trust.
It could be a lack of trust, but I think when they're younger, it might be a lack of, or it might be an abundance of options that they're unwilling to commit on a decision. as they get older, I can see it as a lack of trust, but they've also kind of instilled that lack of trust because they've never trusted anybody else. So, that's a key indicator is like when if somebody has a certain personality type, though, they're gonna kind of project that personality type in other people. So if they can't trust other people because of whatever decisions they made, they're also going to say other people aren't trustworthy. But it's just kind of projection of themselves.
Yeah, it's also difficult to trust people after getting plowed by, Dirty Dick Rodneys and, countless Chads and stuff.
Well, for women. That's a decision they made. They actively grabbed that dick and put it in them, and they didn't take the time to do a basic analysis on the consequences on that. So everybody else in their life pays for them not vetting somebody. So nobody else can be trusted because of their decisions. And I think that's just projection, right? I was like, you made a shit ton of bad decisions in your life. That's great. But you can't now say that I'm untrustworthy because you're untrustworthy or you can't be trusted to make good decisions. So,
well, that sounds like it's the accountability thing.
Very much so.
And I think that's definitely one of the most important values of a leader.
I think so. Anyways, I think it boiled down to simply something like that. Because I've had bad relationships with women. I've had a very horrible relationship with women or with a woman. Hence why I studied fucking cluster B and narcissism for 10 years. I'm not that type of engineer. I'm not the social engineer like that, right? And but by all definitions of me having that terrible relationship with that one woman, it should have ruined all my other relationships. But I'm not going to allow it to, right? Now, is there a certain basic mistrust of what people say because of that? Maybe. I certainly, but at the same time, it's also called being older and understanding. I was like, well, I'm in my 40s and some 20-some-year-old girls like really macking on me. I'm not the most attractive guy in the world, so I know that she's not, interested in my looks. I dress like a bum. I may make a decent salary, but my old hoopty Jeep out in the parking lot, me dressing like a bum every day, doesn't relate to that. And I do that on purpose as well. I stay minimized as much as possible. I'd like to be unnoticed, right? Kind of the hacker method, or method. Anyways, I want people to ignore me more than they notice me. But or is she just hitting on me because I'm tall, and I don't think any of this, granted, I think there are some smart women out there because of course, on my nasty old watch band here, it's a 4-year-old watch band, but attached to that watch band is a $700 watch, right? Maybe she's paying attention to that. Maybe there's probably little indicators that if she's very shrewd, she can pick up on, and that's why she's macking on me. Or maybe she's just fucking young and she's just macking on every guy that's like over 40, and she think they're more successful than the average bear. Who knows?
Yeah, man.
Who knows?
You go on YouTube videos. That's you can kind of find a lot of videos of women just kind of talking about their experiences with older men, and they tend to like, being with older men because the men are more established. And it's kind of sad for me. It's sad for me to hear about it because I know that the women they're saying this stuff because the younger men don't have the same resources. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of painful because like I'm on the younger side.
You say you're 28, right?
Yeah, I'm 28, and it's like the guys who are like in their late 30s and 40s, like the amount of resources they have versus the amount I have, no comparison. But it's like in the past, it wasn't like that. But the women are saying that guys who are young aren't as mature. It's like, well, certain milestones, like males aren't reaching the same milestones as they reached in the past. In the past, those milestones were reached quite easier. Like they were easier to reach because of the financial viability of the past. Like if a man could just get a job, like in the past, a man could get a job, and a man could get a job in the past and raise a family off of one income, right? So the amount of maturity you'd be able to go through in terms of, or the amount of life you'd be able to cycle through in terms of like having that type of status and wealth, you wouldn't have to reach 39 or 40 and become this mature male. Like it happens. I mean, you reach certain stages when you get certain needs met in your life, and a lot of men kind of missed out on the younger ones anyway.
I don't know if girls have a sliding curve on how they grade you guys. You gotta understand, women, generally speaking, have a very short maturity curve. That's why they're like, well, women mature faster. Women their maturity stops when they're able to bear and take care of children. So that's like 13, 14, 15 years old. And that's the end of their expectations in life. And then anything they do beyond that is considered empowering and fantastic. Men have to learn how to do everything, right? I mean, and from my marriage experience and even my fiance and everything, I was like, she doesn't have to know how to do everything. She has to, know how to do a few things and do a few things well. And I'm always trying to increase that scope. She's done very well with that, but I have to know how to do everything. I have to know where everything's at, I have to know where every freaking tool and appliance and this and that and yada, 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 where it should be at and where it's at. I have to know how to fix everything. Nobody else in the house is responsible for that, just the guy. So the guy has to learn through many years how to do all of this shit. And again, I'm sorry for cussing, but some guys learn this very quickly. Some guys learn a little bit more slowly. Some guys need hands-on. Other guys can just see it and understand it and reference it, right? So but at the same time, this is the maturity of a man, right? And even at the basic level, maturity of a man has to be able to provide, shelter, food, and safety, right?
Yeah, how many men do you think can do that? Like in their 20s anyway.
Nowadays, very few. That's what I'm starting my own business, so I'm starting to trying to find people start staffing some positions, some critical positions. It's very tough because
what field of industry are you going into?
Generally speaking, cybersecurity and cybersecurity training. Looking and going into going back into pen testing, applications assessment, or web application assessments and stuff like that, but also going into compliance or going into looking at like a corporate policy and mapping the corporate policy all the way down to their tactical side to how they implement the corporate policy down to SOPs and so forth. But
that's a pretty niche market, and people do need it. So are you establishing your own brand, or are you just doing it as a service for now?
I'm looking to establish my own brand. I mean, I'm starting off. I'm probably going to be more of kind of a service provider, but I want to go more into in-depth training because there's some aspects of the lack of training in the past 20, 30 years I've noticed that I would at least like to try to make a dent in. Whether or not I will is another. The hard part of this career is that I can be replaced by an insurance company, right? Like, well, yeah. I could pay you a lot of money to do this, and we could give assurance to our customers that we're taking our due diligence seriously. or we could just pay insurance and fuck the customer's data. And if the customer's data gets exploitable, pay 1 to 2 years of Consumer Reports credit monitoring for them. So I'm hoping to try to press the idea, especially on the government side or people related to the government side. It's probably the safer route for them to go on the due diligence side versus buying insurance side. So,
okay, I get that. The thing is, do you have any upstart capital? Did you save any money?
a little bit of money. I'm certainly writing my business plan right now because I need to go on a capital hunt here real soon. So.
Okay, I understand. Okay. So usually in this predicament, there's 3 things you need to do. You need to do research on your cost-effective analysis, meaning how much money can you make per client and what's your success rate of closing on a client. So you would need to start networking, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing you would need to do is also do research of your competitors. Who is competing with you in your proximity?
That's the beauty. I don't have any direct competitors in my proximity within like 300 miles. I'm already doing my SWOT and my market analysis right now. That's what I've got myself and somebody else tasked on doing right now. That's the core focus of the business plan. But
okay, so how much is the incline cost initially? Do you think is how much you're going to spend?
Oh, I haven't figured out the whole thing right now, but I think the first year at a bare minimum with minimum staffing was just like the first 3 core critical employees being one of them is going to be at a minimum of $350. And it's even with me not even stopping working for my job right now until we're more established. And we'll have one person fully staffed to take this on, one person half staffed, and me kind of working like after hours until we start, if we can grab 1 or 2 contracts. Now, it's kind of shady, but maybe not. I know that there's one contract we can stipe.
How much can that contract give? How much can that contract pay you in 1 year?
I'm looking at about $750.
$750 in 1 year. So this is after taxes, after management costs and stuff like this.
No. That's before all the that's before all the costs.
This is revenue.
So the revenue itself is probably going to come to, I don't know, rough estimate, probably about 200.
About 200,000 after everything, the profit.
Yeah.
200. Okay, so how I would initially set this up is set up a capital base for yourself. So you need basically what the recommended thing to do for the time and period of business that you've been in business. You need to save relatively 40% of what you make. Right? When you do this year on year, even if you were to have 2 to 3 bad years, you would make back most of your money through your next tax year and the money you've already recuperated. So you have breathing room. Because having a business, when you make less money in another tax year, you carry on the difference as credit into the oncoming year, right?
Yeah.
You can use this loophole to always stay in business.
Now, is that only for the first like 3 or 5 years, or is that continual?
No, this is usually for the first 5 years.
Okay.
But the thing is, the capital that you should have should always be more than your revenue that you make in a year. It should be at least 75% more than what you make in a year. That's how much your capital should be.
Okay.
So this is the rule of thumb I use when I'm extending to another location. Right now, I have 2 locations. I'm extending on another location. I'm renting one place, and I have 2 locations. So what I would do is I would make what I counter into my capital of what I need to take care of. The bills are paid for more than 2 years. For if it comes to light, comes for rent, property tax, managing staff. I have enough to support the staff for 2 years if I were not to make $1.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that straight out the gate.
No.
know,
I'm saying when you establish yourself. I'm saying this is the capital rule I use. You see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
let's say, all right, before the pandemic, I made $3.5 million after all expenses. After all expenses, my company, we made about $3.5 million. What I did with this initial investment is I took 40% of that $3.5 million and I put that way in our business account. The remainder amount of money, I took 20% as income, and the rest is I reinvested it back into the business. This is what I did on an oncoming year. So it's not like I'm taking the profits and just reinvesting 100% of it back into the business. That's what you have to do for the first couple of years, but you should always leave yourself some breathing room in case something were to happen, because something always happens, right?
Yep.
I didn't think COVID was going to happen. I have over 200 clients paying their contracts, and then all of a sudden, over 70% of them are only paying half their contract now. I take that initial hit. You see what I'm saying? But now I finance my situation where everyone can be paid. All the properties can be all the bills for the properties that I own can be paid. All the taxes can be paid in between then and there. If I get into any legal trouble, that can be covered as well for the next 2 years. From this point where I stand right now, I have money to cover everything if I were not to make $1 tomorrow. I don't take the initial profit on myself, because if I really wanted to take all the profit, I could cut my workforce in half, make them push the work onto them, and then take $1 million in income. But I'm not doing that. I'm reinvesting the income and I'm investing it. So if I do need the money, I can take from it.
Well, that's something I wouldn't mind talking to you about too, and whether or not you have the answers for it too. Is like, do you save it in a business account, or because I'm also kind of worried about starting a business and this potential volatile economic climate we're going into. Do we move that into a trust of some sort? And that's something I've been thinking about too, but I just haven't had time to explore it yet.
My business is set up. My business is privatized. So I set up a contract with everyone in the business. So everyone on board directors, they own a share of the company. If they leave, I pay them out. There's no giving. It's not public. It's not publicized. It's not a public IP. It's privatized. So if you leave, if you are an employee, you get a percentage of share. If you are on the board, you get a percentage of share. That is also tends to be your severance payment as well. So that's less payment coming out of my pocket. I'd rather give you shares, something I don't have to give you immediately, than give you a severance package at the later date. Because inherently, I pay more when I give you a severance package, because I don't know my situation of what's going to happen back then. Or let's say I have to sell the company. That's a risk I have to take on, because I don't know how much my company will be worth in the future. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's how I set it up. So
well, that's exactly how I was looking to set this up too, but I don't know. Like the last time I had my business going, I was pretty much the one-man band. And so there's a lot of these financial aspects I didn't really have to learn too much. I was on the cusp of doing that, but then the financial crisis, like 2008, 2009 came, and my customers started shedding me. I lost all of my customers all within a matter of like 4 months. And it was my own. It was kind of my own fault now. Looking back on it, I was just choosing small businesses to kind of focus on, right? But that was my clientele. So I, wasn't in the best market.
Me and you will have similar experiences because our customer is the same. Our potential customer are people that are self-employed, people that own their business or companies. Right? Because you do cybersecurity. I do cyber management. I manage websites, applications, games. Okay. Right? It's a similar niche. So in retrospect of what you have right now, obviously you don't know how the economy is going to go. But the thing is, our business style doesn't require us to be open like for business. It's a remote thing.
Yes, exactly.
So that's what makes it so lucrative. So at the same time, it's a remote thing. You don't have a lot of upstart costs. You can just pay the people that you hire when it's going to be you. Someone's working part-time, someone's working full-time. basically this is more on a networking basement. So if you want to network and get your word out there, it cuts out a lot of the bullshit because you're not going and driving and meeting people, going out for dinner. No, it's just a Zoom call, 10, 15 minutes, and it's done. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot. If anything, it's easier for you to start now than before.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm also capitalizing on too, is this idea that remote work is now comfortable, because even a year ago, it was very hard to think about trying to get people to be remote workers. And even me, I had to take like a 30% pay cut to be a remote worker. You know, and for me, I'm like, I still very comfortable to live on that, right? So it wasn't a big deal, but then it's been one of those nagging things. Like I need to start my company back up, right? And is this the right time? I'm getting old enough to where if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I think I have enough knowledge to where I can at least make decent decisions or hire the right people to make these good decisions. But there's a lot of aspects of this that I haven't really directly dealt with, and especially with the financial stuff. I've been looking into it a lot, but also looking into our market analysis as well. I'm trying to marry the market analysis with the cost analysis and so forth. And just trying to make a best guess on that right now to go out. I think out the gate though we'll be okay. I'm looking at year two. Year two is when I'm hoping that we'll have enough of our feet under our, on the ground.
The first thing I would do is try to spend as little as money as possible and efficient as possible. Secure that one contract for the long term, and try building a business relationship to get more business from that one contract. That's what I would do.
Yeah,
because that's initially how I started my business. I went through a lot of people, and a lot of people say I'm inexperienced, I'm young, I don't know anything, whatever. And one person said yes to me. And guess what? When I started the business with them, I didn't get paid a certain amount. Like the contract wasn't a big contract, but I did a good job for them. And I was consistent and I was transparent. And they invited me to one get together, one conference. And I ended up getting 6 clients from that one conference. Those 6 clients are still with me.
Nice. Good.
You see what I'm saying? So like personally, I can tell you what, like off stream, I can tell you like what I did from point A to now. I can tell you everything, but solidifying good business relationships nowadays is the best thing you can do. And the thing is, it's the best time to start because more people are realizing having a job isn't enough. You need to do a side hustle. I have some people that are my clients that have small websites, right? And they pay me a little fee, whatever. And they do catering. They do cooking, they do baking, small stuff. And that can benefit you as well. Because guess what? On their websites, they're going to have a payment. They have like a payment system on their websites. They need security. That's you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there is a market for you, but a lot of people don't realize that. And then also you have to do research of people who have done this in the past. What is the turnover rate for making this into a business?
Well, I definitely know the turnover rate is very high, especially in my area, because people just treat each other like shit or pay them like shit. So that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Also, is I want to invest more into my employees to get a little bit more staying power with that, more loyalty, I suppose. But I haven't found. Well, I'm certainly not going to find that perfect mix quite yet, but I will. But yeah, and also from my last business that I had, that I definitely know I know what the threshold of my smallest business will be, and I'm not unwilling to take on even the smallest mom and pop shop, but I think they're going to be kind of stovepiped into like a service category, and that's it, versus me going out there and sucking dick essentially to, and waiting for them to call me at 3 a.m. So, that's going to be much more of a defined relationship, I think, is what I'm essentially saying, as opposed to being an open relationship, where they can tap on me whenever they at their whim. Either way, I could probably Ryan. I could probably talk to you for hours on this because, like I said, I'm coming back into this, and I'm looking for lessons learned and guidance. You know, I'm an old guy, but at the same time, I want to come into this
Like mistakes I've made, you want to know? The like mistakes I've made?
I want to know successes, mistakes, the things I should be looking out for, this and that, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to probably suck up a few hours of your time one day, you know, and if you build me for that, I'm
so
fine.
I'm gonna have to interject. Y'all are gonna destroy my.
I'm not gonna do that. Usually, I charge for my financial advice, but I won't do it this time. Don't worry about that. Like I can talk to you about stuff like that. I don't have no problem with that.
All right,
because the thing is, like my advice can only go so far because this is from. Yes, I've done business in the U.S., but like you live in Texas.
Kansas, yeah.
Oh, you live in Kansas? I've never done business there. So this would only go so far as to me being in Canada and Pennsylvania so far. And like I have done business overseas, so I don't know if it would 100% work with Kansas because I've never done business there.
I think the core fundamentals would work just universally, generally. So
okay. Well, I can do that. Yeah, there's some stuff I can there's some stuff I can let you know. Yeah. Let's see. One of the main things is if you're going, let's say if you're networking with someone, you get into business with someone, but there is it's like a wedge deal where basically you have to put in like the leverage is put up against you and you're entitled to lose more in a deal like that. Only take risks like that when you have capital and you're okay with losing. Like you already have to predetermine that you might just lose the money up and then, right? But it can also be a very good opportunity. One of my rules is what I have. If I'm dealing with someone with equal leverage or equal standing or more than me, I have to make sure they have skin in the game. There has to be skin in the game on both sides. So that's indirectly or overtly. So let me give you an example. I'm dealing with a guy. He has a friend. He has an exotic car franchise. Like he has a couple locations in Portugal and in Sweden and like all across Europe. He has a couple locations, right? He knows my niche and he knows what I do. He also came to Canada because he was looking for a start to make some money and stuff like that. I have over 35 clients that buy supercars, luxury cars, and switch them out every year. My leverage is the 35 clients. COVID's happened. My business isn't doing so well, right? But the thing is, we can help each other. You see what I'm saying? So if he's entitled to build a relationship with me and even get even one of those clients, he has to be on my terms. But I am also benefiting as well. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So instead of it just being like me going to him, right? And me being nice to him, being transparent and giving everything he wants without him having any skin in the game. He knows that if I give him a lower price for a contract and I make the business relationship longer, right? In turn, he will make me money because he is also bringing me clients. You see what I'm saying? He's already given me 4 clients already. So I'm helping his business because I'm giving him a little bit of my clients, right? And he's also helping me because he gave me some clients. What I'm trying to say is there's an instinctive value of leverage being put across on both sides where both parties benefit, right? But even if the other party does not hold up their side, you walk away from it. You don't stay in it and think it's going to work out. I learned this the hard way because my mom went through this when she was going to business. She opened her first restaurant and she wasn't listening to me and she was going against her mentor as well. She ended up dealing with someone who had no leverage in her business, ended up selling the building to her and renting from her, and he didn't pay rent. And she couldn't evict him because she didn't have the money to. And guess what? She lost her house. She lost $300,000 and she had to go bankrupt. This was back in 2007. You see what I'm saying?
So recent. Yeah.
So that guy sold the property. That property was like $500,000 at the time. And never paid a cent after that. And stayed there for 6 months. while she had to pay the difference. I had to see that, and she learned the hard way, and I took that with a grain of salt when I'm dealing with business with people.
Well, I'm definitely old enough and crusty enough that I don't trust anybody, and I don't give anybody a free ride. I'll give them an equal ride, but not a free one. So,
Unless you see the return is near, unless you can see a return. If you're giving someone a free ride, right? Unless you can see an initial return where you gain a benefit anyways, that's fine. But if there's none, and it's just the it's the courting phase of starting the business relationship, no, don't do it.
yeah.
But then also don't burn your bridge, because what tends to happen is the people that you don't really do well or can't, come to an agreement on, don't burn that bridge. Stay transparent and be like, okay, but this is what I want. Right? Don't, say, oh no, fuck that, you're scamming me. Don't say any of that.
Yeah,
right?
so
Those are
essentially you're
people
giving the
that tend to
opportunity to
come back.
succeed and bring their success to you. So
Exactly, because those people are the ones that tend to come and do business with you way later on. And what ends up happening is when you move past that, you end up finding someone else better to do business with. And that person realizes, oh shit, I should have done business with you 2 years ago. You know how many times that's happened with me?
yeah, well, even my old business that happened a few different times. Like, well, I think you're overcost. I'm going to go with this other guy. I'm like, okay, Roger that. And then 6 months later, like, this guy fucked everything up. They fucked my network up. I need you to come solve it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and that was a hard call too. It's like, I was like, do I come and solve your problems? Because you were with me for 2 years, or but I'm still charging you for the extra hours of solving these problems because I'm coming into now an unknown situation. So in a sense, they're almost like a new customer, But
that's just like some of the things you should know. But there's a lot, especially when you're like, I don't know if you're going to be traveling, like, because you could go abroad as well. A lot of businesses abroad.
Well, the first year or two, I'm not. I'm hoping the first year or two is if they get our feet on the ground, right? I'm a little leery of trying to expand too quickly. I've worked with enough businesses that have dealt with rapid expansion. They don't know how to handle it. I've been trying to compensate for that, but at the same time, I think it's one of those things that that the iceberg is coming, but you might misjudge how big that iceberg is or how fast it's coming. So I'm trying to gauge at what speed we do things, and also make sure that our policies and our ideas are in place to handle that.
A set merit that's like my business. I'm not like the whole point of my business is sustainability. It's not really making a huge profit. It's sustainability. So if a decent return of our business makes about 6 to 7%, that I consider that a win.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to shoot for the stars. That's the thing. I make sure certain things are in place. So even if a huge risk was to happen, I'm not overtly hurt by it. Right? Yes, I've done that strategy, and I probably missed out on some opportunities. I could have made a shit ton of money this and that, but I also could have lost all my money. Right? Because honestly, like, if I didn't apply the strategy that I have now, I would be bankrupt. I mean, I'd be working a job.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I wasn't expecting this COVID to be so bad. It's horrible.
Yeah, I have some. I think that's affecting a lot of people right now. Y'all, I'm gonna make a hard pivot in about 2 minutes.
You can now. Ryan and I emailed you, so whenever you get an opportunity, just respond back and we can set up a time. Because I'd love to pick your brain. So.
That's fine.
All right, so I'm actually. It's weird. So I've actually technically been on for 4 hours before this. So this would actually be 5 hours and 28 minutes and 16 seconds.
Holy shit! I didn't know you were on for so long.
Yeah, I had to start a new feed so that I could try to fix the audio, only to realize why my audio was messed up in the first place.
You have to restart the stream, yeah.
Yeah, but I figured we were talking about leadership, but Rollo Tomasi actually has a video out. It's like one of the, I would say he's one of the biggest content creators in the manosphere.
Yeah, I have his book. It's really good.
Yeah, there's one video I want to play before I end this stream. And I'm actually kind of tired, so I'm going to end this stream at like 3. Maybe earlier than that if I feel so inclined, and I'll probably do something tomorrow, either at 8, probably earlier, maybe 7:30 or 8. But
Okay.
I'm gonna play this, and y'all let me know what you think. So, by the way, anything I play today, I'm probably gonna continue follow up tomorrow and play as well. Right. Yeah, the whole day we just had issues with technology. That's all it was.
Oh, you guys just had technical issues.
Yeah, like the whole, I think Braxton was on like an hour or 2. The whole stream, I couldn't hear what he was saying. He had to type.
The language of reason. Now, that's not to say that you can't get that woman on
All right.
debating the state of women.
So this particular point that he makes is extremely profound, and there's a lot of implications. So I'm going to start it at 5. It's between 5 and 8.
Show you statistics about why marriage is at its lowest rate. Statistically, women between the ages of 25 and 45 by 2030 are going to be single and childless. Why you are in the position that you're in, why you have gone through your quote unquote hoe phase or your party years, as I've stated in my second book. Why you've gone through that. I can show you why you think the way you do right now, why you want to get right with God, why you want to do things the right way, why it is that you're done with the bad boys and you're typing into your profile, your dating profile. Had my fun. I was so wild in college, but now it's time for me to get serious, and I would like a guy who is serious. And if you're not serious, then swipe left, right, wherever it is, right. Pass me by. Don't respond to me. And this is a very popular, to hold women accountable, to put it in black and white numbers, right? To show them the graphs, to show them the stats. We have the access to empirical data right now. And that is appealing to reason with women. And you cannot appeal to reason with women. Women start from instinct, then emotion, and then reason, if they get to reason at all. So when women are debating the state of women in 2020, in 2021, in this century, right, in a gynocentric social order, and they're disillusioned with where they are in life at that particular time, they are starting that argument from an emotional core, an emotional center. That's where it begins. I'm not saying that they can't be taught reason, or they can't have the insight to think about things, or maybe even, change their ways. That's a possibility. But that argument, that debate, that insight always starts from emotion. And men often, especially, beta male guys, gamma male guys, whatever you want to call them, usually start from a reasoning, from a rational standpoint. I am the guy that you should want to get with. I'm a better long-term, I would be a better dad. I would take care of the kids. I would provide for them. I'm a technical genius. I've got my own business. Why is it that you would want to get with these hot Chad alpha guys and get, raked over the coals with them during your hoe phase and your prime fertility phase and your prime sexual market value years? when I am statistically, let me show you the spreadsheet and I'll tell you all of these things. You're beginning from a rational perspective and you're appealing to reason. Whereas that woman is speaking a different language. She's speaking.
Well, that's certainly 100% fact. I think it's always been that way. I think
I am confused. There's two Ryans.
No, it's my phone died.
Oh. Yeah, so if you saw that, one of the main things that I got out of it was that he said women they operate off of instinct, then emotion, and then reason. That was, I mean, I have personal experiences that seem to kind of go in line with that.
I think this is something I mentioned to my marketing professor back when I was an undergrad, was that marketing was totally geared towards the woman. And I only said that because it's all bullshit. But obviously people feed into the bullshit. Now, by the time I started college, I guess I was 20 years ago. You know, I'd already had done, a few years in the Army. I was kind of jaded, cynical, and so forth. And had plenty of girls leave me because I'm like, well, you're going to be gone for 2 weeks. How can I ever stand by? I'm like, well, you're just a disloyal fuck. But anyways. In my marketing class, even when I was in my undergrad, and this was like, I don't know, early 2000s, the marketing class stood out to me mostly as being kind of like female nature, even though the projects that we were assigned, like you have, like me, I remember I was assigned to do a marketing research project on Garmin, right? And I just happened to like Garmin, the GPS company, right? I kind of happen to be kind of a map nerd and a land navigation nerd, stuff like that. So I thought, I was like, oh, that's great. I only passed that class because I bullshitted it, right? But there was a lot of other projects that were presented during the class that were just 100% bullshit. It was just sales. That's all it was, sales. It had nothing to do with the facts, right? It had nothing to do with facts. It had to do with how it made you feel. And I don't know if that would still work on like an older woman, and probably not even an older guy. Like, what do you want me to spend my money on? But even when I was younger, I realized that, man, shiny shit sells, right? It doesn't mean it's quality shiny shit. It's just shiny. And I think girls have always been that way. They're always after the shiny shit first, for the most part. So if you present them with something shiny, it's what you hear. Even like, I think it's Fresh and Fit. They're talking about these guys that go out and rent like a fucking, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or something like that for the night just to go out to the club. And they're spending a couple $100 an hour to rent this car, just in the hopes to get them laid. And that's all it is. Is that girls now have this expectation that guys are going to flash out a lot of money just to earn the right to sleep with them.
Yeah, it's basically them looking at the top 10% of guys and thinking that's the average. When you look on Fresh and Fit podcast, and they go around the table asking how many percentage of guys do you think is sexually active with women today, and most of them say over 60%.
Yeah,
which is far from the truth. And then like when there was one podcast where he was like, basically, there is more chance that 13 of you girls have slept with the same guy and you don't even know it.
Well, the funny thing is like, when I was younger, I never considered myself one of those 10% guys. I can definitely say I've turned away more women than I've slept with. But but how many of those girls, even as natively I met, that oh, she's your friend. Oh, she's your. Oh, all four of these girls. I've slept with all these girls. I've slept with like a whole herd of girls, and then you happen to meet, you meet one girl at the club one night, and you're at a table with like there's like five other girls there, and like a couple of your buddies, and you're like, I've slept with them all. I was like, it's just some sort of setup, and girls have always been this way as far as I'm concerned. I just think that the availability to grab more guys from a longer range is the only difference.
Yeah, they have a natural abundance.
Well, but before like dating apps, there wasn't that. Their abundance was the guys that they could meet or meet through social means. Now that you can just get online and meet guys from around the world.
Yeah,
but
that was the atom bomb. Social media was.
Well, it's going to bite them in the ass, I guess, eventually. I mean, we probably won't see it for another 20 years, but it'll bite, But
Well, thank God for the manosphere, man. Like, I probably wouldn't be where I am with what I understand now if it didn't exist. Because there was definitely no one around me who was going to teach me this stuff.
Well, at the same time, it's like if your idea or if your want is to, be like at least sexually active, I think you're going to have better ideas on how to at least perform that. Because I'll tell you what, dude, even like, and I never even considered myself a stud. I knew guys in the Army that were fucking studs, double D's, STU double D studs, right? They walked into a parking lot on a rainy day and they could pick up a girl, right? And it was like, Jesus Christ, but, and even somebody like me, I guess I met all the metrics and whatnot. Who knows? I never asked, to be honest. I didn't even know about the 6'6s until just a couple of years ago, to be honest with you. I was like, is this a real thing? And you'd hear girls ask about those things even back in the 90s, but I always thought it was kind of a joke. I thought it was a kind of ironic joke that I'm like, oh, the same different girls from different parts of the country or different parts of the world were asking about the same thing. It's kind of weird. That being said, even when I was actively trying to find girls, I was probably at best 20% successful. Meaning 80% of the time I got shot down. I'm like, yeah, whatever, So I can only imagine for guys that don't go in with, and I didn't even call it confidence when I was younger. I didn't think I was going in with confidence. I just call it like dumb abandon. I didn't give a fuck. She says no, whatever, I don't care. Right. So I think there's a difference between being confident, like I'm going to score this girl, and me is like, I could care less. Right. I never went to a bar or a club or a restaurant or wherever thinking I was going to pick up a girl. And if it happened, it happened, and it happened often enough. But I think what made me the most successful when I was younger is that I could care less. Girls would hit on me and I'm like, yeah, whatever, They come back to me in like 20 minutes and see how you feel. You drunk ass, But and I would say I was more or less an asshole when I was younger. But I was the guy at the club that would tell a girl, she'd come up and say, hey, buy me a drink. I'm like, hey, you need to impress me first. And I got slapped a lot.
You say you got slapped a lot?
Slapped a lot, because that was my line for a long time. It's like, well, how are you need to impress me. And I didn't.
You seriously said that back then?
Yeah, but it wasn't because of
the awesome,
reason, like I would say it now. I was just kind of I didn't want to deal with the girls, at that, I mean, I didn't want to deal with them for more than about half an hour, if that makes any sense, right?
That makes perfect sense.
I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want to take you to dinner. I was like, if you don't go back to my truck right now, we're good, but I don't want to know your name. I certainly don't want to know your last name. I don't know where you're from. I don't want to know any of that stuff. Because, well, at the same time, you got to understand in the Army back then, if I was home for 2 weeks, I might be gone for another 7 months. And
It's basically a touch and go.
well, there's a couple girls that I liked. I wish they would have, and they're the ones that kind of taught me. Are like, well, you're gone for a whole week, so I can't stay with you. I'm like, well, fuck you too. I'm gone. It's Monday through Friday. You can't hold on. But whatever. So I got kind of jaded, yeah. But it certainly wasn't about women back then, though. It was just I didn't. Well, maybe it was, I guess, to an aspect. I didn't want to deal with women.
You didn't want to deal with women, but you just wanted to fuck, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But I think when you can take women out of your focus and make it just a secondary thing, and just focus on your purpose, like they come anyways. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
Like my mentor's like 63, and he has women like 2 years younger than me trying to hit on him, and he has a wife and kids.
Yeah. I'm a fat fucking barely haircut guy nowadays. I still have women that hit on me. And I'm like, if I had energy for you, maybe, but it doesn't even mean the energy for them. I got lots of energy, but I'm already busy for like 18 to 20 hours of my day to begin with.
Yeah, basically, you're like, I'll mess with you if it's just like, an in and out. I'm not trying to listen to you. None of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of hilarious. You get like all this attention. Like when you're young, like dudes don't really like attract the attention of women. But then when you get older, when you get older and you're busy, it's like it just falls. It's like everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially when you're on your purpose, that's when the women show up more than anywhere else. They show up so much. When you're busy doing something else and trying to invest in something else, that's when they want to come be like, oh, focus on me. I'm like, no. And then they chase.
Yeah, and that's the secret to life right there for guys, is that they have to stop chasing and be the ones to chase, I think.
Yeah, because as soon as they leave, right, all the investment is gone. But when you invest in yourself to make more money, the money's not going to leave you. It's not going to complain. It's not going to bitch. It's going to continue to work for you. When you're sleeping, when you're fucking, when you're shitting, when you're showering.
Well, on top of that, I think it also comes out of trust, right? Because a lot of guys that don't invest their time in something else, they want to throw their energy into something. They'll throw that trust into something. And nothing ever earns that trust. That woman ever earns their trust. So that's why guys get jaded, I think. So I think in a lot of ways, this new community, this new way of thinking, this whole red pill community is kind of based on the lack of trust of women and how women have just exploited that fact that guys haven't given trust, and guys are getting smarter because of that. And that's a good thing.
I can say that a lot of men don't want traditional marriage. They kind of want a legal marriage or nothing. And the thing is, they can just walk away from it. There's no legal binding aspect. You know how many, Bridget has lost so many friends because they find out how the agreement we have, and they're like, oh, he's just using you for your youth. He's going to leave you when you're older and blah, 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 and this and that. Blah. I'm like, no, me and Bridget have talked about this. I'm like, we've talked about this. Like, when I'm older and if I really don't want to have sex all the time, you can have one person and you can go to them just for sex and then come back. Like she said this herself, right? If she doesn't feel like it, right? Because there is going to be a time where she doesn't feel like it and I'm going to want to have sex. And I asked her, what are we going to do? He's like, oh, we can talk about it and have someone else. Like they think that that's not okay. It's talked about, right? It's not cheating, right? But that's how it is. When we're guys, it takes a long time for everyone's different. But like for us, our sex drive declines late 30s, 40s, or is it still?
You say men?
Men. Like their sex drive
60s, man.
But what I mean is the initial lust of it. Like we don't have the raw sex drive that me and you have, Iron Son, in our 20s, right? We recuperate, it starts to drop a little bit late 30s, but we still maintain it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Well, your sex drive doesn't drop. I think your want to chase drops.
Oh no, that shit's already gone. Fuck that. That shit's already gone. No, I say as long like as soon as you get red pilled, I think that shit goes away instantly.
Well, maybe. I mean, I was like personally red pilled probably in like the early mid '90s, but I didn't know what that was or anything
Whoa,
like that.
man, that's pretty
Whoa.
early.
Yeah, that's early as
Well,
shit.
Well, I mean, women are women. Women have, people complain about women nowadays. It's the same. It was the same back in the late '80s. Girls are girls, right? The thing is like the bad behaviors have become very much more profound, but those bad behaviors have always existed. It's just that now more girls exhibit those bad behaviors.
No, and there's just a camera on it now. We can see it on
Yeah.
social media. This
Well,
has
and
always happened. We know the fucking game now.
Yeah, and they celebrate it too. Whereas, back in the day, girls didn't celebrate this. It was kind of shamed. But those girls always existed. These ideas have always existed, since I've been around.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all this feminist bullshit that you hear nowadays, it's like profound. My mom was talking about this shit in the early 80s. I'm like, yeah, whatever, but at the time she was just kind of crazy. Nowadays it's celebrated, like, oh, look at the girl empowerment. I'm like, you still guys don't have any skills still.
Yeah, it's still crazy.
Yeah, I was like, you still can't do anything for yourself. You're totally empowered by relying on some dude to take care of you in one way or another. So
yeah,
whatever.
If they're doing if they're living off of welfare, those are male tax dollars. So their empowerment, the whole empowerment thing, can only exist in a vacuum. Like, it can only exist insofar as like they're being supported.
Yeah.
If I had a dime for every woman that said I'm strong and independent, but she has some man on child support or some man on alimony that I know personally,
Yeah.
I would have a lot of money. I would have a lot of money.
Yeah, I like
But the thing is, like, when you break it down logically, they don't kind of take a step back and look at it, like, from a bird's eye view. Like, if I really do this, lead my life the same way, am I going to have the outcomes I want? They don't look at it like that.
Well, I think the
well, you heard Rulo.
Well, I don't know if it's women or most people. They don't see their long term as anything more than like 6 months away at most. Where I'm looking at long term as like 10 years, right? I've been living on a 10-year plan for like the past 30 years, right? I've been living on such a long term plan that it gets hard for me to look at what's tomorrow, right? Because I don't care about tomorrow. I care about what's going to happen next year. Mm-hmm. I care about the decisions I make tomorrow and how it's going to impact next year, I guess. But, long story short, though, is that especially when girls are younger and they have a lot of abundance, they don't have any reason to plan for the future because their future is just one high and smile away. Like, hey,
yeah, I'm young, I'm pretty,
yeah,
that's all I need. No, no, you need, if think about it, if that's all you have and every girl doesn't have to work for that and they get that at 18, what makes you different from the rest? And what does a guy get from investing in you? If you stop doing it, he can go to another girl. Because my friends, they have a lot of problems. Like, oh, I keep getting ghosted by guys. I'm like, well, you're not. I'm like, okay, so how's the relationship? And basically, they get pumped and dumped. And I'm like, you didn't bring value to him other than sex. You gave him sex and you couldn't make him stay. There was nothing. He saw no. Here's the thing. If a guy ghosts you after he has sex with you, if you've been with them 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? You didn't bring inherent value after sex. That's game for women. If you can keep a man. A game for men is having multiple women. Because as like when you're 18, it's very hard to get a girl. And if you did get a girl, you're going to enjoy it, right? If you have the abundance, you're going to enjoy it as a man. But a majority of men aren't getting that. It's only a small percentage of men. So think about it. A guy in the lower 80% becomes 20%. He's going to fuck everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even the women he doesn't like, even the ones that are below his standards.
Trust me, I used to that gymnast, bro. That what do you call it? What teammates call her? Ninja Cat.
Oh yeah.
She had a shitty fucking personality, but she was flexible and she was hot. And she was crazy too. She broke into my
Sounds
house. Remember?
wonderful. She broke into your house.
Yeah.
What the hell?
She broke into my house. It's because it was Valentine's Day and I said I'll meet you later today, and I took a nap, right? And it was a weekend, and I wake up and this girl's in my house petting my head.
What the hell?
Yeah. So I'm like, how the fuck did you get in? She jumped. She's 5'2". She jumped over a 7-foot fence. Like she scaled the wall and jumped
Jesus.
over the gate. I have it on CTV. I live in a gated community. She broke into my house. The sliding door at the back was unlocked, and she just came in through there.
Is that what status does? Holy shit.
No. But what I'm saying is, this is when I was in high school.
Oh, okay.
This is when I was in high school, and the thing is, people obviously.
Ryan,
people
what kind of game did you have? Did you have sage level game? What's going on?
Not real. I didn't really
She,
know.
tried to scale a 7-foot fence for you.
Well, I was dating her. Kind of,
okay.
for a week or so. This is Valentine's was the next week, and she did that.
That's ridiculous.
It was, because the thing is, back in high school, I didn't really ask girls out. I didn't ask anybody out. The only girl I've asked out is the girl I'm with now.
Mhm.
I haven't asked out any girls because before, think about it, girl. Usually who were girls dating back then? And when they were juniors, they were dating seniors. They were dating guys that were older. They weren't dating the guys in their grade, right? But the thing is, I was the leader of the jazz band. I was student council president as well. So think about it. It's a status thing. It's not
that's
even
a lot of
me.
status. Yeah.
It's not even me. It's for
No.
attention.
What was that club called? It was an academic club. Oh god, I can't remember. Oh, it wasn't the Mensa Club, but it was one of the things in National Honor Society. That's what it was. And I thought it was funny because in high school, man, I was a roughie in high school. But it was kind of funny because I was the only guy that would come to. I used to kid because I was the only kid that would come to National Honor Society meetings with a one-hitter, right? I dressed like a bum back then. I used to dress nice, but I figured out dressing like a bum just gets me less attention, so I'm good with that. But back in high school, I was a bum, so I dressed like a bum, and even me being National Honor Society got me a lot of attention from the girls in high school. And I was, at the lowest. I wasn't at the lowest tier, but is significantly lower than the average person, I suppose. Mm-hmm. The only thing I had going for me was, my physical fitness maybe, and my mental skills, I suppose, or my academic skills. But I could have easily been in prison right now. I just decided to zig instead of zag. That's the only thing that happened. So 100%. I was like, well, I could have done this, but I joined the Army instead. I'm like, well, I prefer not to get shot. I prefer not to be in prison. And quite frankly, I was bored with the people that I knew I was going to go to jail with because they weren't all that intellectually intriguing, I suppose I should say. But and then I joined the Army, and I found a whole different class of degenerates and drugs and all that stuff. So that probably didn't help me too much, but I got through it, I suppose. But that was in the early 90s. Drugs were still kind of a thing in the Army. It's definitely not the way that nowadays, but
so it just turned out being worse anyways.
No. Actually, no. I didn't do a lot of. I mean, there was a lot of drugs. I never did a lot of drugs. I smoked a lot of pot in high school. I didn't do any of the hard stuff. There was definitely heroin and stuff around there. I never have done heroin. I did coke once, and it made my nose bleed for 6 hours. So I was like, well, that's not going to ever happen again. And I don't know if it was the coke or not, but I've never had my nose bleed like that ever in my life, except for that one time. So I'm like, well, okay, I'm done with that. It was LSD in the Army that, well, it wasn't in the Army. I was down in Texas and go down the Mexican border. I could pick out a pound of LSD, and
Holy fuck.
And well, I also found out that a lot of colleges from Nebraska down to Texas didn't have any LSD. So I figured out my first business model was to drive around a lot on the weekends. But I honestly say that because of that, it probably unfucked my life more than anything else. Because I can definitely say when I was younger, I was angry. I was angry. I would fight you for no reason. And if you gave me a reason, I don't care how small it was, I'd still fight you. I'd love to fight back then. And, I didn't care who you were, what you were, anything. I was like, just give me a reason, I'll fight. And it was, because I definitely look at, like, I've heard it on the, some places the past few years, how psychedelics can help a person's mentality. And I think that's possible. You have to be guided through it. And I wasn't guided through it other than I had a friend of mine once. I was talking about something. And I just bought like 1,000 hits of acid. I always tried 1 or 2 hits just to make sure it was worth selling or whatnot. And this stuff was like a triple dip. So I took 2 hits, probably 1 too many. And I was tripping balls, right? I was talking to this guy. He was our company medic, and I remember him saying, he's like, "Dude, you are fucked in the head." And if you're on acid, you'd understand, but you kind of focus on like the most important thing. The most important thing could be a caterpillar, right? Or it could be something that somebody says. And that led me down to like probably a 9-month bunny hole of exploring. First when the medic, when he said I was all fucked up in the head, and I started exploring that and I started understanding that and so forth. So I kind of, for like 6 to 9 months or so, I deconstructed my life through the use of LSD and became, I can definitely say I attribute a lot of who I am is from my early 20s, is being able to deconstruct who, a lot of my personality and what the key contributors of parts of my personality were, and kind of building the person I wanted to be, And granted, I wasn't 100% successful then, but I think it made a big difference. It guided me on the right way. So, if you ever hear those hippies ever talk about, hey, man, it's so cool, and you find yourself in a very abstract way, that's true. I just don't think they have a way of articulating how it can happen. I think it has to be very focused, and you have to have a reason to do it. But at the same time, that was also the last time I really did drugs too. So that was like, I don't know, well over 20 years ago now. But I didn't need it anymore, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I never really had like, I never really did like a lot of drugs. The only thing I did was like weed, and I smoked for like 2 weeks, and I was like, I was on the swim team as well, and I'm like, I can't fucking hold my breath for like 6 seconds. I'm gonna stop doing this, and then that's pretty much when I just stopped smoking altogether, and that was like grade 11. I haven't done anything since then.
Well, I can definitely, from a lot of retrospection, I can say a lot of people that do drugs, not everybody, but a lot of people do drugs are doing it for, I would almost 100% of the time blame it on like some family condition that kind of set that condition for them. And I'm not saying that for everybody, because I know a lot of people nowadays that smoke pot that's what they do. It has nothing to do with family. They're not trying to escape for anything. They get done with work and they'll smoke some pot, whatever. And the funny thing is like they didn't even do that most of their life. They didn't start picking it up till like their late 30s or whatnot. But a lot of it is kind of compensating for something that they're missing, I guess. I don't know. It's probably no different than any kind of other ism like alcoholism or whatnot. So he's usually trying to find a way to escape from something. I don't know. I never studied that part of psychology too much. It's just something I've noticed. So I've never known a lot of people that came. I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories that people have come from like this perfect family and went down the route of being a degenerate, being a druggie, whatever, yada yada yada. And the thing is, though, is that I've been at plenty of these perfect families too that they're kind of fucked up. They're only perfect in the pictures, so who knows what's really going on? I don't know. I'm not the one that lay judgment on these things. So
I'm kind of a bit on Ryan. I was thinking back when you said the chick scaled a 7-foot fence just to pet you on the head. It kind of makes me wish I had RP knowledge back in early high school when I was around the high school cheerleaders and stuff.
I messed with her for a little bit. Then I I talked to my friends about it, and they're like, "Bro, she's fucking crazy, bro. This is a red flag." Then I broke up with her like 2 weeks after that. I think I had sex with her on like the third day. Yeah, like the third day. I haven't looked back.
Wait,
I have not looked back.
How do you break up with a crazy person?
How'd
you do that?
Kind of just
ghost?
I ghosted, but at the same time, like there was like 3 guys giving her a lot of attention, and she kind of just went to them as well. So
Okay.
I was lucky because dealing with crazy persons, it's very hard to get away from them.
Well, but that's the thing too, is especially you just mentioned she had 3 other guys. A lot of these crazy girls will try to punish you by sleeping with other guys. You just gotta let it happen. Just don't ever take them back.
I didn't care. I was happy. I'm like, all right, you want that? Okay.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, well, I slept with him and yada yada yada. I'm like, well, go back. You're not coming back. You're not coming back here. And then that's my own experience. They'll try to punish you by sleeping with somebody else, and then you tell them to fuck off, and then they'll try to punish you by sleeping with 5 other guys, and eventually you don't become their target anymore because they'll find some dude that'll be their new target. And especially if they are exhibiting those narcissist traits, you just have to stop being their target and let them find a new target. They're gonna miss their old drug for a bit, and however long that bit is indeterminate. You just have to what a lot of guys call it gray rocking. You just don't respond. They text you, they don't call you, they don't answer the phone. If you see them in person, yes and no answers.
I call it have y'all watched Avatar: The Last Airbender before?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Koi the face stealer?
Oh yeah.
It's been a while.
I call it the Koi the face stealer. So whenever you're interacting with a woman, for example, and she's like, you're trying to be rational and she's just super emotional, that's an example of a moment to use that Koi the face stealer kind of technique. And then kind of what Dad teaches is talking about the whole gray rocking thing. I think that's kind of what they were talking about in that particular series. In a way, they were talking about gray rocking, but that's a really important skill for people to have because those individuals you come across.
Yeah, even my fiance now, she's very rational, but every woman's going to get emotional for some reason at some time for whatever reason. And I do 2 simple things. First and foremost, I tell her, here's the way it is, and I'm not talking anymore. And I give her 24 hours to think about it, and I don't talk to her. I might not even look at her. I'll just go about my day. And within 24 hours, she'll come back and like she'll is always the one that apologizes for it. everything. Now, I always give her the opportunity because I've been with her for quite a while now, and I don't. She's not a crazy woman. She's by any means, but if she wants to talk about something, she can. She can bring up. I've always had the door open to. You can bring up any issue, talk about it, whatever. Because I have a simple rule in my life. I never go to bed angry, right? And so if something starts to bother me right now, I'm going to talk about it right now. I always call it like my Rain Man thing. It's like I can't let something that's fucked up go past, right? I got to talk about it. It's like fucking 273 toothpicks or whatever it was. I'm like, but it's been very well for me. It's like, I told her, I was like, this is the way I think, and she wants to get emotional. I'm like, great, have a nice day. And I'll just let her think about it for a day. It's never taken more than a day, and then she'll come back and she's all emotional about it. I'm sorry, and this and that. Yeah. I don't hold it against her. It's just who she is.
Most dudes need to know how to do that. That's because like that whole thing you're talking about, a lot of dudes, like, they'll end up caving to the woman as opposed to actually being strong in their beliefs. If they're being honest anyway.
Well, yeah, I used to write a lot of short stories when I was, in my 20s and whatnot. And one of the short stories I always wrote was The Juggler, right? I wrote two stories kind of back to back. One was called the fucking Snow Globe, and one was The Juggler, right? And the story of The Juggler essentially was a guy that had to juggle his own emotions and his own life and everything. But now some woman threw her balls into his hands, and now he's got to try to juggle her balls as well as his balls. But then for some reason he takes her balls to be more important, so he ends up dropping his balls and only juggling her balls. When he comes to find out later on is that she never had to juggle her own balls, and he had to drop his in order to keep her around. And was it really worth it? Long story short, but that's the basic thing is like, you can't manage somebody else's life or happiness. You can only manage yours at the best it is. And you have to, if you want another adult in your life, you have to expect them to be adult. And if you expect them to be an adult, sometimes it means you have to enforce the idea that they're an adult. At the same time, it also means that you have to be willing to have somebody else enforce the idea that you're an adult too, in case you slip. But the older you get, the less likely that's going to be to happen. But women make decisions on emotions, and guys generally don't.
So it's harder to see them as adults because they're behaving like a kid.
Well, when they're emotional, yes, but the same thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and she hates hearing me that, but yeah, she hates hearing me say it. But she's like, well, I'm an emotional. I'm like, I've said it many times to her. I was like, name one problem that's ever been solved by emotions versus logic.
Oh, they don't like that. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, man.
They don't like that.
Well, she wants to say, well, I'm an emotional being. You have to acquiesce to it. And I'm like, name one problem that's ever been solved by emotions.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yes, because it's a good idea to acquiesce to the guy who's being emotional in the middle of World War II.
Yeah.
Battle of the Bulge.
He can cry. He's gonna still get shot while he's crying. I don't care.
Yeah,
but
there was that reminds me. There was a scene on Private Ryan, like right when they got off the beach, and they were on the beach in like the metal barricades things, and this guy was just praying, and he got shot right in the head.
Yeah,
right in the head. Bullet went right through his helmet.
Yeah, God's not gonna save you then. Getting your ass in the mud's gonna save you.
Yeah.
Fucking run into the ditch. Anything but stand there.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like the thing that Rolo was talking about, where he said instinct then emotion. So, like, I think the male equivalent would be instinct, logic, and then emotion. So, that order of processing, that like
Yeah.
the whole situation you have with your significant other, where she, you're like, this is how it is, and it takes her a while to come to it at the end, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like that, I think that's what you're dealing with. She's processing it through instincts and then emotion, and then the reason comes way later.
Yeah, and I think the key thing to it too is that I don't press the issue. I don't keep hammering it with like I'm right or not. I set the conditions on. I don't even set the conditions for anything other than I'm setting the conditions on how and why we're gonna talk, how I'm gonna respond to this, and if it doesn't meet these conditions, then I'm not going to be a part of this conversation. That's the only condition I'm kind of drawing a bubble around myself is all it is, and like, if you want to communicate with me, then, you have to bring it to my level, not to your level. Right. I'm not going to go down to the emotional level because, quite frankly, I think that's kind of stepping down, it's kind of like somebody dragging you to the mud to fight. I'm certainly not an expert. I'll fight you. Right. But you're going to fight on my terms, not your terms. That's all it is. So, and I'm saying fight figuratively. We don't ever really get in arguments or anything like that because I don't see the need to. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm like, you want to argue about something? Well, you can be frustrated with me and you can talk to me logically and rationally, and that's fine. And I'll accept your. But
So,
you want
you want to remain in a masculine frame. So she kind of relies on you to do that because you're a man anyway. So I think personally, what you're doing is it's natural. And so you may not think about it as like a big deal, but like the average guy has a difficulty with that. It's pretty difficult for them to do that. And they tend to fall into the emotional frame and lose their own sense of direction.
Well, I think guys are doing that because they're afraid of losing something. And once you get past the fear of losing something, it's easy. I haven't been afraid of losing a woman ever. Nope. And maybe when I was very, very young, up until it happened, and I realized it like a day later, it didn't really matter. I was like, what was
Leaf Trimmer? I don't think he was attacking guys who were. I don't think he was attacking a guy who was praying. The problem is, if you're praying right in the middle of a battlefield and there's bullets all around you, it's kind of an unrealistic thing to do in the middle of a fight.
Yeah, there's time and place.
It's not a very logical thing to do. Like even if you don't think it's emotional, it's not very logical either. I mean, the logical thing to do would be to take cover.
Yeah, just try and survive, right?
Take cover, run, do something.
I'm not saying you can't pray to your cross, but I mean, at least hide first and then pray to the cross. Right?
Yeah.
Like God gave you a brain. He gave you a rational brain to process information and keep yourself, safe. And even if you don't believe in God, whatever created us, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of guys that I don't even know a lot of younger guys, and I even blame how guys my age are kind of brainwashed by their fathers because, I've worked with other older engineers and so forth, and I'll, like have a conversation with them like, you said that to your wife? I'm like, yeah. Like, how does she not kick your ass? I'm like,
what the hell?
If she raises her hand to me, I'm going to break her in half. I was like, I've never put up with that shit. I was like, I don't put up with it from anybody. It's not just the women. It's like some dude wants to come and kick my ass. I'm like, good luck. You may win, but I'm going to make you pay for it. And he's like, the best of my ability, I'm going to fight back.
Well, the guy is saying that like, his dad was most likely, he probably was.
Well, these guys
really
were the age of. Well, these guys were the age of my dad, and they're like, I can't. You're not supposed to talk to women that way. I'm like, whose rules? Whose rules said that?
That's rough.
Well, but I'm saying like these guys. I was like 30. These guys are like 60, and that they're hard grained with these ideas too. And And maybe that's the way it used to be, but it can't be that way anymore because, I mean, men already don't have a very big say in life to begin with. You know, so the one thing I can have a say in life about is who's in my life, I suppose. And then especially like, you know, my ex-wife, and she participated zero. I mean, granted, yeah, I made a very bad decision with her, right? But she was a negative balance to the account, a significant negative balance to the account.
What does she
And
do exactly?
she fucked a lot of other dudes and drank a lot. And that's
Oh,
about all she did.
okay. Yeah, that's pretty
But
straightforward.
you know, but you know, I still cleaned the house and I cooked and all that. I did. When I finally got her to fucking leave, my life actually got easier. I had less to take care of. You know, so all I did is I lost a very bratty kid in the process. I'm like, yeah, okay, roger that. But you know, and one of the reasons that she left me was because I wasn't the kind of man she wanted. And I'm like, well, the kind of man you want is just going to be the simpy guy that's going to give you whatever you want. And I think a lot of guys, especially guys that are raised by moms, well, a lot of guys are like that. And
well, you're
I can
right.
definitely say
That's absolutely right. I came from that kind of household, so I can confirm that that's what creates. That's the simp factory right there.
All women are great and wonderful and evil, or great and wonderful and perfect, and you never question them. You know, it's like, well, you know, you have to question something sometime because they're making, you know, you can't ignore the bad decisions they're always making. But, you know, so I kind of learned this when I was younger, at least. I learned a lot of bad decisions when I was younger. And that's one of the things that always helped me out in life to figure out a lot of things was that I seem to make a lot of pretty decent decisions throughout every aspect of my life, except for when it came with women. So that one aspect told me something too, is like, why am I making these bad decisions with women? Why am I picking these fucking crappy ass women to be around? Yeah, it was because I was being simpy, essentially. I was trying to give them more. I'd meet a woman and 10 minutes later, I was giving her all of my trust. Therefore, I was giving her no reason to ever respect me, you know?
But it makes sense, though, because you're not really operating out of abundance. Men, I mean, most of us, we don't start out interacting with women.
Well, I also had no father figure to teach me any of this stuff, too. I had to learn it in school, Hard Knocks, and that was a big thing.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, I think my dad, I have a pretty good relationship with my dad now, but my mom told me horror stories about how evil my dad's just a dude. He's actually a rather smart dude. He's still one of the guys I've never beat at chess. So, you know, and he's got, he could talk to you for 10 hours straight about random facts about just random things and not even scratch the 1% mark of what he knows about things. He's pretty smart. You know, even he never went that far in his life, but at the same time, I don't think he ever really wanted to. You know, I think he was pretty comfortable in just doing what he had to do, you know, and so forth.
Yeah,
so he's never.
I can see that.
He's never been a bum, but he's never been particularly successful. And especially coming from my family where I have some significant successful people in my life, right? So, or my family, I should say, not my life, but I mean, you know, I've got a lot of that in my family, and my dad was never one of those guys. And apparently me either, you know, that's fine. You know, I don't grade myself on others. I grade myself on what I should be doing, I suppose. But
yeah, you'll get depressed really quickly if you compare yourself to other men.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not something I've ever done anyways.
I do it sometimes with weightlifting, training, and stuff like that.
You'll get demoralized real quick. Yeah, demoralized real quick.
I gotta stop doing that.
I've never been the guy I've never learned envy. You know, this one I've I thought it was cool that other guys could do the shit that they could do. I mean, granted, I'm a fat ass now, but I used to be in pretty decent physical shape. And, I mean, I could, but even when I was in really good physical shape, I knew guys that were 3 or 4 times better than I was. I knew guys that could swim for 2 miles straight, where I could barely,
Jeez, man.
I could barely do like 200 meters and laps, and I was done for like the day. I was like, holy shit, I need a fucking day of rest now. I kicked my ass, And these guys could just go swim. Like they could go swim and swim and swim, and then come back, and they're like, "Hey, you want to go get a beer?" And I'm like, "Jesus, how'd you do that?" But guys that could just run, like I used to run regularly for 10, 12 miles, and I've even done a couple of marathons in my life. But about the 20 mile mark is when my fun meter gets pegged, and I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. But I've got 4 or 5 friends of mine that they do these ultra marathons. Like, I ran 106 miles in 24 hours. I'm like, on purpose,
What
Jesus Christ.
You did that you just did that? Just why? And he's like, well, they had an ultra marathon. Well, what'd you get out of it? I'm like, well, you don't get anything out of it. And I'm like, other than a fucking significant calorie deficit, I suppose, but whatever. But, no matter how good
ridiculous.
you are, well, it depends on what kind of guys you're around, because
it sounds like that David Goggins guy. He's probably an ultra marathon runner. I could imagine he is.
No, I don't know who that is, but
he's a Navy SEAL, like a pretty prolific Navy SEAL. He does like motivationals, and he's like into workouts and stuff like that.
I used to I worked around quite a few Navy SEAL guys back in back in the 90s, and those guys are just in really good physical shape. They really are. They're the working around those kind of guys always kind of kept me in check when I was like, I'm in decent shape and everything. And then you watch this guy do pull-ups, straight pull-ups on a bar for like 10 minutes. And you're like, I can do like 30 pull-ups. This guy just did it for like 10 minutes. I don't even know how many pull-ups. He probably doesn't even know how many pull-ups. He's just like, la, 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 la. And I was like, Jesus, Judy, I was like, okay, I guess I can probably work towards like 40 pull-ups then if I saw this guy do it. I can.
You say 40 pull-ups, man. You were in really good shape to do 40.
No, what I'm saying is I could do 30, consistently. Then you watch this guy doing it for 10 minutes. I'm like, I guess I can try for 40,
30 pull-ups, dude. Again, that's really good shape, dude. That's nuts.
Well, I mean, that was
not compared to the freaks, Navy SEALs, but that's still.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of standard for our job. I mean, you gotta understand, our job was, we did a lot of communications with the radios. I was a Ford observer, so our job was to kind of find high value targets and high asset targets and stuff like that. Put lasers on them, have their, we had to kind of sneak in behind enemy lines, whatnot, generally speaking. And, and sometimes that mission, just getting back to where we could find the targets could take a week or two, so you're kind of starving yourself to death anyways, because you can't carry 2 weeks of food on your back. I don't care what the fuck anybody says. And then also you have to walk back too, right? So that's double the trip. And then you have to find your target, and then you have to get eyes on target and this and that, and so forth. And a big part of our job was just physical fitness. We probably spent 4 hours a day at the gym. If we weren't deployed somewhere, half our day was spent at the gym. So it wasn't uncommon for us, is what I'm saying.
Jeez, I definitely can't do 30 pull-ups right now, even if I tried.
You could, though, if you spent 4 hours a day at the gym. Within a couple of months, you could do that comfortably. You could comfortably do 100 push-ups and go run for 5 miles, come back and do 30 pull-ups, and then go and have 2 cheeseburgers and a 6-pack of beer. If you did that for a living, it would just be part of your life. You know.
Well, I definitely want to get to that. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
trying to get pretty fit right now. That's my
Yeah.
goal.
I need to get more fit again. Me being a fat ass I've been noticing it, but past year and a half's been I have let myself go, but I got to get past that. But what I'm saying is that you can do it. These are not unattainable. None of us were superhuman by any means. We just practiced a lot. That's all it was. You know,
He's saying the Navy SEALs were doing pull-ups for 10 minutes straight. That's ridiculous.
At least a couple of these guys were. They were absurd. I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
God.
Dude. I was like, you know, you can stop now. You're showing off has gotten boring, you know. But they were at the same time they were kind of the same mode that we were in. You just have to, whenever you get the opportunity, just maintain your physical fitness.
Mhm.
You know.
And it just becomes just a normal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna get it to that point.
You can. You just have to be diligent about it, and your mental outlook on things is 90% of the showstoppers right there. Your mind will tell you, "I need to quit." As soon as you tell yourself, as soon as you start hearing yourself, "Okay, I'm about done," you're only 50% of where you can go at best. I mean, you might only be 30% where you can go. You can push yourself way further. You just have to learn to turn your brain off.
Mhm.
You know. And that really is the secret to success. You have to just learn to ignore, like, okay, I'm getting tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm there. Have you ever seen the movie Gattaca?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Gattaca is kind of a sci-fi movie, but towards the end, it was two brothers swimming across the bay, right? And one of the brothers asked this other brother is like, you know, he's telling us like, we got to turn back. And the other brother's like, no, let's keep going. And the younger brother was like, how come you've always beat me at swimming? And he's like, well, because every time you want to turn back, I tell myself I don't have a choice, but I keep going forward, you know? So he gives himself no choice. That's really all it is, you know? And that's a big part of what the military is, you know, at least on the combat arms side. Has nothing to do with physical strength or, you know, all of this stuff. It's just that you have to get to this mentality that you just don't quit. That's all it is. And if you feel like you need to quit, just keep going, you know.
It sounds like it's a breeding grounds for masculinity.
Well, it's definitely a breeding grounds for mental fortitude, you know. I mean, you learn to not care about you learn to see things in a different way. Like I was talking earlier, like you see the weather. Some people will make excuses as to not do certain things because of the weather. It's too hot or too cold, too windy, too sunny, too rainy, too snowy, yada yada yada. But once you get used to living out in the weather, you don't ever notice the weather. So now your resilience is built up, right? So you got a whole category of life that no longer affects your life, right? I mean, for me, even right now, I was like, unless it's like minus 10 degrees or over 125 degrees, the weather doesn't really impact me. Now, as I get older, you know, that range may shrink a little bit, but generally speaking, I don't care, right? I can go outside and get rained on all day long. I might not even notice it's raining out there. So he's like, hey, why are you staying out in the rain? I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, maybe I should go outside. But, you know, because the weather factors no longer are decision points for me. It's like, I'm going to stop doing this when it starts hitting this condition. These conditions no longer impact me. And the same thing with physical fitness is that you can say, I'm going to do this up until a certain time period, or I'm going to do this until I feel a certain way. But if you take away all those conditions and like, I'm going to go until I fucking can't go anymore, that changes to everything, right? And once you can't go anymore, you still probably have 10% left in you. You can still go a little bit more, you know, up until your body collapses, you know. And if you want to find this out, put a 30-pound ruck on and do one of the Stairmasters until you can't do it anymore. You know, there's a point of where you don't want to do it anymore, and then where it really hurts, and then where it really starts to suck. But you can still keep going. You know,
Mhm.
you just have to ignore. You just have to turn that part of your mind off and like, I'm going to do this until I fall on my face, until my legs no longer work. And you'd be amazed how long it takes you to do that. So,
Well, this is definitely kind of reiterating a lot of things for me. I wanted to shift the focus to. So I was actually looking at.
I'm going to have to probably call it quits here pretty soon. I got a early morning here and it's 3:30. So,
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and I'll just do another stream tomorrow, maybe at 8 or 9 or something like that.
all right.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to be able to come in until like probably an hour after you start. So
No problem. Any last thoughts anyone's got? By the way, okay, so I'll give a last thought. So I think in the last stream I gave like an example of something I admired and like someone who I saw as a leader. So it'll take too long, but in the next stream we'll pretty much just continue with that and something else. That particular topic. And with that, see you later. Y'all have a good night or a good morning.
All right, too.
See ya.
Good
Yeah.
hunting. Never quit.